media ethics and responsible reporting in sensitive death cases. The Yu Minglong story. In an era where every click, comment, and share amplifies a story beyond borders, the tragic death of Chinese actor Yu Minglong became more than just a reportable event. It turned into a global conversation on morality, responsibility, and the blurred line between journalism and entertainment. When a beloved public figure dies under unclear or sensitive circumstances, the media becomes both a mirror and a magnifier of public sentiment. But when that mirror distorts through rumors, sensationalism, or invasive storytelling, it can cause lasting harm not just to truth, but to human dignity itself. The death of Yu Minglong was sudden and shrouded in uncertainty, creating fertile ground for unverified claims. Social media platforms exploded with speculation, while mainstream outlets faced pressure to keep up with the fast-moving narrative. In that chaos, the true story, the one grounded in compassion, accuracy, and ethical awareness, was at risk of being drowned by noise. This incident not only exposes the cracks in modern reporting, but also challenges journalists, influencers, and audiences to redefine what it means to be responsible in moments of collective grief. The first issue that emerged following Yu Minglong's death was the speed versus truth dilemma. In the race to be first, too many outlets sacrificed verification for velocity. Within hours of the announcement, unconfirmed details about the cause of death flooded timelines. Some sources hinted at intoxication, others whispered of depression, while a few went as far as fabricating personal letters or last messages. In doing so, they not only spread misinformation, but violated one of journalism's most sacred tenets: to do no harm. In cases involving death, especially under uncertain conditions, the harm from inaccuracies can be devastating. False claims shape how a person's legacy is remembered and how their loved ones grieve. Responsible reporting requires restraint, a virtue that's increasingly rare in a click-driven ecosystem. The ethics of journalism demand that reporters verify facts before publication, seek official confirmation, and consider the emotional and psychological toll their reporting can cause. But the public's insatiable curiosity often tempts media outlets to deliver speculation as news. The line between fact and rumor becomes dangerously thin. For instance, when alleged videos or leaked chats began circulating, reputable journalists should have refrained from amplifying them without verification. Instead, some chose to echo what was trending, giving baseless content an illusion of legitimacy. Equally concerning was the use of graphic or sensational imagery. Some blogs and tabloid sites used edited or dramatized photos to depict Yu Minglong's final moments, ignoring the trauma such visuals inflict on family, friends, and fans. Ethical journalism insists on preserving the dignity of the deceased. Death should never become entertainment. In sensitive cases, images and descriptions must be treated with utmost care, ensuring they serve a public interest purpose, not just voyeuristic curiosity. Respect for privacy, particularly for grieving families, is not a courtesy, it's a duty. This brings us to the deeper question: what exactly is the public's right to know? Society certainly benefits from transparency in high-profile cases, especially when there are questions of accountability, systemic negligence, or cover-ups. However, right to know does not equate to right to everything. There's a moral distinction between information that informs public understanding and that which merely satisfies gossip. The challenge lies in balancing transparency with empathy. A responsible journalist knows when to tell the truth and when to hold back for the sake of humanity. The Yu Minglong case also intersected with discussions around intoxication and accidental death, adding another layer of complexity to media ethics. When reports surfaced suggesting alcohol might have played a role, headlines became dangerously reductive. Some outlets framed it as a moral failing rather than a tragic accident, a narrative choice that stigmatizes rather than informs. Instead of exploring the broader issue of substance use and mental health in high-pressure industries, coverage veered toward moral judgment. Ethical journalism should contextualize, not sensationalize. It should ask, What social, psychological, or occupational pressures lead individuals to risky behavior? How can society better support them? In this context, examining intoxication as a contributing factor requires nuance. Alcohol and substance use are complex public health issues, not simply character flaws. They intersect with stress, trauma, and accessibility to help. Media that reports on such elements should aim to educate and prevent future tragedies, not exploit one. Discussing responsible consumption and safety protocols can transform a sad event into a teachable moment, an opportunity to advocate for policy changes, safer environments, and greater awareness around mental health and addiction. From a systemic standpoint, both individuals and institutions have roles to play in prevention. On the individual level, promoting self-awareness, stress management, and access to counseling can reduce risky behavior linked to intoxication. For the entertainment industry, this might mean offering regular mental health screenings, establishing peer support networks, or enforcing stricter alcohol use regulations during productions and public events. On the societal level, governments and organizations can implement public education campaigns about substance safety, and workplaces can develop wellness initiatives to identify and assist those in distress. The intersection between responsible media reporting and public safety policy becomes vital here. When handled ethically, stories like Yu Minglong's can drive systemic change. But that only happens when journalists approach the story with empathy and integrity, seeking solutions rather than scandal. For example, investigative pieces could highlight the gaps in emergency response or the need for better rehabilitation access instead of focusing solely on lurid personal details. Journalism at its best doesn't just reveal what happened. It reveals why and how we can prevent it from happening again. Yet, beyond institutions, audiences themselves bear responsibility. The consumption of sensational news fuels its production. Each click on a misleading headline rewards unethical reporting. The more the public engages with rumor-driven stories, the more such stories proliferate. Media literacy, our ability to question, verify, and interpret information critically, has never been more essential. Every reader, viewer, or follower is part of the media ecosystem. When we demand accuracy and compassion, we reshape the standards of storytelling. Another ethical dimension involves timing. In the hours immediately following Yu Minglong's death, journalists had a duty to wait for official confirmation from authorities and the family before publishing cause-of-death details. But in the digital rush, many failed to do so. Responsible outlets understand that the first few hours after a death are emotionally volatile and factually uncertain. Publishing too soon can lock misinformation into public consciousness, even after corrections appear. Speed without accuracy is not reporting, it's recklessness. The aftermath of Yu Minglong's death unfolded like a storm, swift, chaotic, and merciless. In the first few hours, social media timelines became battlegrounds for truth and falsehood, each rumor spreading faster than facts could catch up. What began as collective mourning soon transformed into a theater of speculation. Every tweet, post, or exclusive leak added new layers to a tragedy that had not even been properly understood. The digital noise was deafening, and amid it, the line between compassion and consumption began to blur. In one viral moment, a supposed eyewitness account surfaced, a poorly edited clip claiming to show Yu Minglong's last night out. Within minutes, thousands had viewed and shared it, though there was no verification of its authenticity. The clip was later proven fake, yet the damage was irreversible. Strangers commented, debated, and analyzed a supposed state of mind, forgetting that behind every pixel of that narrative stood a grieving family. The tragedy was no longer his alone. It had been taken apart, reassembled, and sold as content. This is the modern paradox of media ethics. The same tools that allow truth to reach millions also allow lies to spread faster. In Yu Minglong's case, the frenzy to fill the silence of uncertainty became more harmful than the silence itself. Each unconfirmed post painted new versions of his story, some portraying him as reckless, others as broken. None of them asked the most important question: where does responsibility end when information becomes entertainment? Journalists and content creators must remember that not all silence needs to be broken. Sometimes, restraint is the highest form of respect. The media has the power to shape public perception, to guide mourning toward empathy rather than judgment. When a celebrity dies under mysterious or emotional circumstances, audiences look to the press not just for information, but for guidance on how to feel. Ethical journalism recognizes that power and wields it gently. In the coverage of Yu Menglong's death, we saw two parallel realities: the ethical and the exploitative. Some reporters took the responsible route, waiting for official updates, consulting experts, and refusing to publish hearsay. Others raced for clicks, turning a human tragedy into a headline carnival. That contrast exposed an ugly truth about modern reporting. Attention has become currency, and tragedy has become the market. What many fail to realize is how deeply such practices harm everyone involved. Families relive pain each time a false rumor circulates. Fans feel betrayed when the media turns their grief into gossip. Even legitimate investigators face hurdles when misinformation pollutes the timeline. In the pursuit of instant engagement, empathy often gets lost in translation. But what would responsible reporting truly look like in moments like these? It would mean verifying before publishing, contextualizing before judging, and protecting before exposing. It would mean that when discussing sensitive topics like intoxication, journalists would not rush to attach moral labels, but instead explore the systemic and psychological pressures that may have led there. For instance, rather than asking, "Was he intoxicated?" ethical coverage would ask, "Why do so many young stars face burnout, isolation, and the pressure to escape?" This is where Yu Menglong's case opens a broader conversation, not just about his passing, but about the hidden costs of fame and the responsibility society shares in preventing similar losses. Reports suggesting that intoxication may have been involved should not be treated as gossip fodder, but as a public health warning. The entertainment industry, notorious for its high stress and social pressure, often lacks proper support structures. Many stars drown in expectations while the world watches their struggles as if they were plot lines. Had the focus of reporting shifted toward systemic reform, the tragedy could have inspired preventive change. Articles could have examined whether adequate mental health services were available, or whether environments existed that encouraged responsible alcohol use. They could have turned grief into advocacy and loss into learning. In the rush to report, that opportunity was lost. Instead of using Yu Menglong's story to shed light on wellness policies in the entertainment world, many outlets chose to dissect his private life. They speculated about relationships, friendships, and alleged habits, often without a shred of evidence. Each rumor built upon the next until fiction felt indistinguishable from fact. What emerged wasn't an obituary, it was a digital autopsy performed not by coroners but by commenters. Yet, despite the chaos, a quiet revolution also began to take shape. Ethical journalists, public figures, and responsible fans started calling out the harmful sensationalism. They demanded restraint, empathy, and truth. Online communities began to share verified updates, counteracting the flood of false narratives. It was a reminder that even in the darkest corners of digital culture, integrity can still shine through. The lesson from all of this is clear. Ethics must evolve alongside technology. News no longer lives on television or in newspapers. It lives in hashtags, reels, and viral posts. Each share now carries moral weight. When reporting on death, the first question should never be what will go viral, but what will do good. Every image, every word, every angle has the potential to heal or to harm. And in sensitive cases like Yu Menglong's, the difference between those two outcomes lies in empathy. The public, too, plays a crucial role. Every viewer is a participant in how stories unfold. When people choose to engage only with verified and compassionate reporting, they shift the market away from exploitation. Collective responsibility becomes the antidote to collective hysteria. Silence, in some moments, becomes a form of respect rather than ignorance. Imagine if, instead of fueling speculation, media outlets had collaborated to produce a documentary about responsible consumption, mental health pressures, and celebrity isolation, using Yu Menglung's tragedy as a foundation for awareness. Imagine if the story had been about prevention, not post-mortem curiosity. That kind of journalism could have saved future lives, turned sorrow into education, and honored Yu's memory through impact rather than intrusion. As the dust settles, Yu Menglung's death remains both a personal and societal wound. For journalists, it is a lesson in humility. The truth deserves patience. For audiences, it is a reminder that empathy is stronger than curiosity. For the industry, it is a call to action to develop clear ethical guidelines for reporting on sensitive deaths, especially in the age of social media. Media ethics is not just about rules, it's about conscience. It's about remembering that behind every tragedy is a human being whose story deserves to be told with care. Yu Menglung's story should not be remembered as another scandal or mystery. It should be remembered as the turning point where society realized that the way we talk about death reflects how we value life. In the end, true journalism doesn't chase chaos, it restores order. It doesn't exploit loss, it gives it meaning. And perhaps the most ethical thing a reporter can do in moments of tragedy is to write with a heart that listens before it speaks.